Welcome to the Beyond the Falls podcast. Today I've got Ryan Stewart with Straight Answer Home Inspections. It's going to be a good time talking about what's involved with the home inspection because it's a big piece of buying a house.
Yes, it certainly is.
So I like to start out, if you don't mind, tell me your tie to River Falls and Wisconsin, I guess, yeah.
From Roberts, Wisconsin. Growing up there, I still would play sports with some of the other kids in neighboring towns, camps, things like that. Did a lot of swimming, kayaking down the Kinney.
Yep.
And I actually worked for a local electrician when I was in high school.
You're a home inspector, you've got your own business. Can you tell us what the role of the home inspector is?
Basically, to inform and educate the buyer on the property that they're going to be potentially buying.
Are there qualifications? Like, I know in Minnesota, you don't have to be a licensed home inspector. In Wisconsin,
very good question. Yes, yes. In Wisconsin, you do have to be licensed. In Minnesota, you don't. So very, very good question. You do need to be. You do have to have a Wisconsin state home inspector's license to perform home inspections in Wisconsin.
Okay. And is there any background needed to go and get your license, or
actually you need to go through the appropriate training courses.
Yep.
And then once you've completed your training courses, you have to take the national test, pass that in order to qualify for your state test, and that would be pretty standard for any state that had a specific state license to be a home inspector. You would have to pass the national test first as a prerequisite in order to be able to take your state test.
Okay. What is your background? I know you've got a little bit of background in construction, that kind of thing, and kind of how did that lead you to where you are today?
Pretty much my whole life, actually. My dad had a water conditioning business. When I was growing up, water softeners, iron filters, things like that. So when I was a kid, I actually grew up, helping my dad with that and putting in water softeners. After that, I worked for an electrician when I was in high school, throughout the summers and stuff like that. And then basically all through college, I framed, sided, roofed houses, both where I went to school in Mankato and back home here. Excuse me. And I actually went to Mankato for construction management.
Yep.
So after I graduated from Mankato, I was an estimator. So I would look at house plans and figure out, I would make a material list and figure out how much lumber it would take to build that house. And then after that, I was a job site supervisor for a residential exteriors company. And then after that, then I was a project manager for another residential construction company local to the area. And I started my business in 2010, actually. So I was doing both for quite a while before I went full-time as a home inspector.
What kind of sparked your interest in going this route?
Well, my mother is actually a real estate agent too, and she had mentioned to me, she actually had some questions for me regarding a home inspection report that she had gotten, and it kind of seemed like the inspector or inspectors hadn't explained everything to the buyer, and maybe we're making, a bigger deal out of one thing or not fully explaining something else. So I kind of felt there was a little bit of a void there that I could fill.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And here we are 14 years later.
That's awesome.
So if I'm a first-time home buyer, I've got an accepted offer on my house, my dream home. I know as their agent, I'm going to say, let's get that home inspection set up. So what's that look like for the buyer on the buyer's end?
Basically what that looks like is I'll usually schedule like a 4-hour appointment with the last hour available for the home buyer to meet me and go through the report together. That way they can have the opportunity to look at something if they didn't fully understand it. It also gives them a chance to address any specific questions that they might have had ahead of time.
Yep.
And then as we're going, like I said, as we're going through the report, if they're not fully understanding what it is that I'm describing, I can actually show them on the house.
It's actually super nice because you do give maintenance tips, but then you also point out maybe like a red flag. So what would be, can you give just some examples of maybe what red flags would be for?
An example would be like if there was some wind damage and there was some shingles that had blown off. You might not be able to see that from the ground. Yep. So the seller, the buyer, a lot of times people are not aware that something like that's taken place.
Yeah.
Or, it could be something like the home was built in the 70s and there isn't smoke detectors in every bedroom and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
And when you go to look at the home, you're inspecting like the roof, which we can't see from the ground. I'm not getting on a roof.
Right.
I'll let you do that.
Right.
But you're inspecting from the roof all the way down to the foundation.
That's correct. I'll go in the attics or crawl spaces if there is any. Check the structure, electric, HVAC, plumbing. I don't do well in septic, but basically from roof to foundation, and everything in between.
Yeah. It's awesome. What other, I know you offer some other services as well.
Yeah, aside from home inspections, radon testing, sewer scopes, those would happen or could happen during the inspection or part of it.
Yep.
And then also radon mitigation as well.
What's the, if you're a first-time home buyer out there, you're looking to do a home inspection, what's the average cost just on an average home?
Typical cost for a home inspection is $375. Radon test would be $125.
Okay.
So.
And then on the flip side, as a seller, some sellers choose to do a pre-sale inspection.
Yeah.
Tell me what that looks like.
Really good question. So a lot of times sellers will want to do a pre-list inspection, and the reason they would want to do that is to try to get ahead of anything that could potentially come up. They want to be able to take the time to plan and make a repair or a correction if they decided to do that, rather than kind of rolling the dice and seeing what comes up in an inspection. And then they're kind of short on time with trying to get everything figured out, because a lot of times if they have to hire a contractor, the contractor could be out several weeks or months.
Yep.
In order to fit them in, and it could be kind of a stressful time. So if they did a pre-list inspection, they can kind of get ahead of that.
Yeah, it's a nice thing too. I feel like it's like when someone goes to list their house, they're filling out a disclosure about what they know about the history of the home while they've owned it. And I feel like that report provides super detailed information, which is nice if you're...
Kind of moves the process along a little smoother too.
Definitely, especially those years where there was no time to get a home. You couldn't write a home inspection in the offer. It was nice when sellers provided that for buyers, that's for sure. So you've inspected a lot of homes.
I have.
Okay, what's the craziest thing like you've ever seen?
Yeah, you're kind of catching me off guard with that one, Sarah.
I know, sorry.
That's okay. I don't know, just, maybe a foundation that was so bad that you could stand in the basement and look through the foundation and be able to identify what kind of trees were on the outside of the house. You'd be able to look through it and see that. That was pretty bad. A lot of roof things that people were either unaware of, where it's totally rotted out, or framing that's totally rotted out, and they may or may not have been aware of that too.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, yeah, like the spaces people probably aren't. I'm assuming the foundation was maybe on an older home, and
it was on an older home.
Maybe not in the basement all the time. Maybe the laundry wasn't down there, or spaces where people aren't looking all the time.
Yeah, or just actually most recently, just some kind of scary stuff too with somebody decided to do an 11-month inspection. So that was an inspection before, so they built a brand new house, and then before their 1-year builder warranty was up, they wanted to have an inspection done, and the exhaust for the water heater was not connected at all, and that was on a brand new house.
Wow. Yep. So things do get messed. So you do have
that's a carbon monoxide risk.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a health and safety issue. Mm-hmm. But good to know also that you will do a home inspection on a brand new house too.
Yep.
Because clearly sometimes.
Well, there is some areas that maybe could get missed even by a building inspector, or it might be kind of out of the scope of their work. I know that sounds crazy because you're building a house, and you would think that the building inspector would catch that or cover that, but there is some areas that are on the fringe that may not get caught.
Yeah.
So.
What's your best maintenance advice for homeowners or home buyers?
As far as maintenance, trying to keep up on the exterior of your house, whether that be roofs, gutters, siding. Say for example, you have some leaky gutters and things like that, or some damaged downspouts and stuff. Those items are designed to carry the water away from the house, and you can start to have erosion issues there if you don't take care of your gutters. Mm-hmm. Your roof is your first line of defense. So if you've had some bad weather and things like that, it would be a good idea to have your roof checked out just to make sure that you're not missing shingles, that you didn't have hail or something like that that could damage it. A lot of times if you have siding that isn't maintenance free, like a wood product that needs to be painted, if you keep up on painting, staining, things like that, it'll preserve the siding, which in turn protects the structure of your house. Similar thing with decks. If they start to deteriorate and are starting to rot and things like that, you should really get those fixed to prevent any sort of water intrusion or even potential failure. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's good advice, and maybe a good reminder with all the leaves falling to keep your gutters clear, or clear them out now, and make sure they're working properly to keep that water moving away from the home. As we're kind of wrapping up, is there anything else that you'd like to add that maybe I didn't touch on?
I think that's probably about it.
Ooh, how do we get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah. You can either give me a call. My number is 715-529-1889. I can be found on Facebook as well, and also my website, straightanswerhomeinspections.com.
Can we schedule right from the website?
I believe you can, yes.
Awesome. Very nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us
today,
and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Falls.